Hi everyone, I'm Miss Martine. As some of you young chefs already know, we have a bunch of videos on our FoodPrints website that show you how to do specific things in the kitchen, like how to cut an onion or how to use a can opener. We call these our kitchen skills videos, and you should definitely watch them before starting any recipe. Also, during our recipe videos, you might see this pop up. This symbol is a reminder to watch the skills videos first so that you know how to safely do whatever the teacher is doing on the screen. And one last important thing to remember, you should only do these recipes if you have a grown-up around who's ready to help you and keep you safe. And that's it. Now, have fun cooking.
Hi friends, I'm Miss Fineran, a teacher with the FoodPrints program. Today's lesson is about making a simple dish called fried rice. And we're going to do this in two parts. In the first part, we'll clean and cook our rice. And then in the second part, while our rice is cooking, we'll prep our vegetables and create the fried rice. So whenever we tackle a FoodPrints recipe, the first thing we want to do is read the recipe all the way through. That way we can make a really good plan. The next thing we think about is what's called our mise en place. Now, mise en place is simply a French term that means getting everything into place. So let's take a look at our mise en place for making fried rice. Here is my oven and cook stove. We won't be using the oven for this recipe, but we will need the cook stove on the top. So I've got mine all cleared and ready to go. I have here our large frying pan with a lid and our pot with a tight-fitting lid and our hot pads. So let's take a look at the things that we're going to need for this recipe. I have bowls and a strainer, measuring spoons, measuring cups. I have our soy sauce and our fish sauce. This is a box grater. We also have some mixed greens, ginger, garlic, and onion, some bok choy and baby bok choy. We've got carrots, broccoli. We have some fresh eggs. We have frozen vegetables if you want to use them. Corn and peas or edamame are not in season right now, but we're going to use them. And if you want to use frozen vegetables, that's fine. If you don't want to use frozen vegetables, that's fine too. We have our tools, our knives and forks. And I also have our rice. So there are many different types of rice. There's long grain and short grain, white and brown rice. Today I'm going to use a long grain brown rice. Different rices take different times for cooking, so we'll get into that more later. The first thing we need to do is measure our rice. So we are going to use our 1 cup measure, because 1 cup of cooked rice will feed a family of 4 for this recipe. And we are going to dip our measuring cup into the bag of rice. And I'm going to level it off. And now I'm going to pour it into the bowl here. Next is the fun part. The rice itself gets dusty and dirty from being processed. So we're going to wash off our rice, and I think you might like this job. All right, we take some water, and we're just going to pour enough water to cover the rice. Now you could do this with a spoon, but if you have little helpers, they're going to love this. You put your hand in and just stir it around to wash the rice off. And if the water is cloudy, then we can rinse it off one more time. And now I'm going to pour the water off of the rice. And you can see it's a little dusty and cloudy. So I'm going to do that one more time. And you don't have to have a strainer at home. You can see how I carefully tilt it. It'll come off okay. So I'm going to do that one more time so our rice is really nice and clean. Put some more water over top. Stir it up. And then Gonna rinse it off. And you can hold the rice back with your hand too, or catch it to make sure it doesn't go in. All right, next, move this stuff out of the way. I'm going to bring the pot over. And we're going to put the rice into our cooking pot. You can use your hand or a spoon to get it into the pot. Remember we used 1 cup of rice, and that is important because we're going to use what's called our ratio. So let me show you what that means. In our pot, we have 1 cup of rice, and our ratio is 2 cups of water for every cup of rice. So here I have 2 cups of water. I'm going to pour that into our pot with the 1 cup of rice. All right, we're going to take our pot of water and rice and put it on the burner and turn it up to medium-high because we want to bring our rice and water up to a boil. And while the rice is warming up, we can begin prepping our vegetables. All right, we're going to start out with our garlic. And this is a bulb of garlic, and our recipe calls for 2 cloves. The cloves are these small pieces that are inside. There we go, 1 and 2. And we need to peel the garlic first. You can either use your fingernails and pull them off. You can also take the knife, the side of the knife, and flatten it. And that makes the peeling go much quicker. Then we're going to take our knife and just mince them. You can do this with a butter knife for our little friends, but we'll also just do this. You're going to still use your claw and just chop that up. All right, I'm going to put this into a small bowl. The next thing we're going to use is our ginger. So we're going to slice it up using a knife and keep our fingers in the claw position. This smells really good. For your little helpers, you can also cut the slices and then put that down for them to use a butter knife to cut as well. That's helpful. Ginger is really fibrous, so sometimes it takes a little bit of work to cut it into really small pieces. Okay. Now we're going to put that in the same bowl right next to the garlic. They'll go into the cooking pot at the same time. Okay, our next vegetable is going to be in our onion. We'll cut the top and the bottom off first. And we want to take the root off, but not too much of the root because that helps keep our onion together as we do our smaller pieces. Now that we have a flat surface, we're going to put the flat surface down, use our tunnel position, and just push down through the onion. Okay, then we're going to peel this outer layer off. This is actually another great job for our little friends. They like peeling onions. Okay, so we're going to take the root side. You see where the root is here on this onion? And we're going to keep that to our left. And also we're going to, it's very slippery, so just take your time cutting it. We're just going to go the length of the onion. And if it gets a little small, you can always make it flat again and cut that piece. We'll get these into a bowl. Next up, so the broccoli from the store, from the market, you know, they have the stems and the top piece. We're going to cut off our stems. Even the kids sometimes like to snap it off in the classroom, just like this. Depends on what your broccoli looks like. They have a great time doing that. All right, then what we need to do is the stem takes longer to cook. So we're going to chop up those little pieces and keep them separate. So even here, I'm still using my claw position, but I'm only just going to have one finger up at the front to guide how big the slice is. They're going to go in their own bowl. And the tops we're going to break. Now again, your little friends can pull them off as well. They're fun for little hands to pull apart. They're going to have their own bowl. We're going to keep them separate because they'll take different times to cook. I'll finish up this big piece here, and I think that's probably enough broccoli for our recipe. For this thick stem, I cut that into corners so it's a little bit similar in size, because we want our sizes to be about the same when we're cooking them. Okay, so I'll cut the rest of these stems. All right, so now here I've got the stems and we've got our broccoli tops. Next up are our carrots, but I need to clean up my space a little bit. So I am going to take my peels and stick them into my scrap bowl here. Going to remove our washing water out of the way. So I have a little bit more room to work. All right, I need to have my box grater on a flat surface. Now, there are many different ways to cut carrots, and we want them to be small for this stir fry because they'll take a long time to cook. So I'm going to use the box grater. Now remember, it's really sharp, so take your time and be careful of your fingers. I'm going to use this side here, and you just use the carrot up and down to get into small pieces. Now sometimes carrots are really big, so it's a lot easier when they're really big. These carrots ended up being kind of small this week. So I could even finish chopping. Since I don't want to cut my fingers, I could even chop this up with a knife at the end. I'm going to do this next one. We do have, in our classrooms, we use a special glove for little kids to protect their fingers. So like I say, it's very sharp, so you don't want to have a really small piece to use. Okay, those are our carrots. I'm going to put them into a bowl, get all the carrots from the inside. That out of my way. So I'm just going to chop like these little ones up real quick because they're so small I might hurt my own fingers. And these will be all about the same size. So like I said, the goal is so that the vegetables are about the same size so they all cook together. I'm going to do this real quick. Into its own bowl, and then we'll do our bok choy. Now, I said earlier in our introduction we have big bok choy and we have this cute little baby bok choy too. You can find either in the market. And what we're going to do with our bok choy is we're going to take our stem, because that's also hard, and we're going to cut the stem off and put them in its own pile. We'll put the leaves in a different pile. So we'll just keep using our claw to guide our knife on the sizes we want. couple more. All right, we're gonna have our stems in one pile, like that, and the leaves we're gonna put all together. And then we're gonna get those with our mixed greens. Okay, I probably don't need all of these mixed greens for this recipe. Let's see, that probably will do. We have in here Swiss chard and kale. And there's some spinach. Oh, that's gonna be yummy. All right, but you can use whatever kind of greens that you have on hand. All right, now it is tricky with cutting greens because you definitely still need to use your claw. Seems like there's nothing to hold on to, but you can squish them all together and keep your fingers tucked in and cut all through. Keep those fingers all tucked in so they don't get underneath your knife when they're hidden up in those greens. Okay, so that's it. They all look good. And now I'm going to put them here in their own pile. So like I said before, we're going to use some frozen vegetables. You don't have to, but it's fine. It also gives you more options. I have some frozen edamame beans. We're going to use a half a cup of those. And I have my edamame beans. We're going to put them in a bowl. And then our corn. Let's open up our corn. I'm going to do a half a cup of corn. And we can put those in the same bowl together. All of our vegetables are chopped and ready to cook. So this is a good time to take a look at our rice. And the rice is boiling. So that means we turn the heat down to low, and we put the lid on it, and set the timer for 25 minutes. Now the next step I'm going to do is move all the vegetables closer to my stove. So we'll need a saucepan like this, or if you have a pot at home, that'll work too. We've got it on the burner. I'm just going to remove this lid for right now. And we are going to add 1 tablespoon of olive oil. Got my measuring spoon. You can use other things like sesame seed oil or vegetable oil or butter. Whatever you have at home is fine. We're going to turn the heat on to medium. There we go. All right, and we're going to give that a minute to warm up before we add anything. All right, once our saucepan and oil are warmed up, we're going to add our garlic and ginger. And now we're going to use our ears to hear the sizzle when we add this. This will tell us it's hot. Can you hear that? That sound tells us it's definitely cooking. So we're going to let that cook for a minute, and then we're going to stir it up. All right, let's check in with some friends to find out what's the next vegetable to go in.
We're going to add our onions to the pan, and if it's hot, you want to make sure that you have an adult helping you with the hot stove. And we're going to bring our cutting board over here, and then you want to have something that you can scrape the onions into the pan. You want to do it away from you very gently. Scrape them in. Good. Get them all in there. Right, and then you want to give them a little stir. And that's how you add onions to the pan.
All right, excellent. Well done, team. We've got our onions, our garlic, and our ginger in there. The next things we're going to add are, we go in order because the harder vegetables take longer to cook. So we're going to start with the broccoli stems. We're going to put them in there. Give it a stir around. And now we're going to put the lid on top to help them steam up those broccoli stems a little bit. I'm just going to give it a quick stir to make sure you coat it with oil. All right, I'm going to put the lid down on top. I'll just give that a minute to cook. All right, next we're going to add the bok choy stems. I'm going to carefully lift the lid off and set it aside. Put the bok choy. And we're going to stir that up. Now you're getting the process down, right? We add our vegetables, give it a quick stir. And I'm going to put the lid back down on top for a minute. Let's capture some of that heat. You should be hearing lots of cooking under that lid, and it's smelling awfully delicious. Our next thing to go in is our carrots. So we're going to take off the lid. We'll put in the carrots. And we're going to give it a stir. That same process, give it a little bit of stir. Make sure everything's getting moved around. Then we're going to put the lid back on. All right, we're going to do the same with the broccoli tops. Oh my gosh, it's looking awfully delicious. I'm so hungry right now. All right, we'll put the lid back on. Now you can see my lid doesn't fit perfectly, but that's okay too. It works for steaming and keeping some moisture in on our vegetables. Makes them cook quicker. Now while that's cooking, we're going to measure our soy sauce and our fish sauce. So we have 1 tablespoon of fish sauce, and I'm measuring these out ahead of time because then when I pour them in to the frying pan, it's easier that they're already together. And this is 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. All right, and you can use anything. I just put it in the measuring cup because it has a handle and it's easy to pour into the pot. First, I'm going to carefully lift the lid, and we're going to pour in our corn and beans. We're going to layer on top our bok choy and our other greens. Carefully add our fish and soy sauce. And so remember, be careful when adding a liquid into a hot pan. It could steam up on you, so be very careful. I'm going to pour it around. And then we're just going to put the lid back down on top. And while that's cooking, we're going to get our eggs ready. So in the classroom and when cooking with kids, it's nice to crack them on a plate, or I like to use a plastic lid. That way it catches any shells. And sometimes the kids don't know their own strength and they smash the whole egg right onto the table. So this keeps it nice and neat. And then they have to just pour it into the bowl, which can be a little tricky for little hands, but keeps it a lot cleaner. So we're going to do both eggs like that. And we're just going to whisk them up and so they're ready to go. Again, this is something your little friends really like to do. All right, our eggs are ready. Let's go back and check on our vegetables. Our vegetables are just about done. We are going to move them into a bowl. So I'm going to bring this bowl here right next to our pot so that we can move them into our bowl. I'm going to carefully take that lid off because that's been sitting on there for a few minutes so it can warm up. All right, I'm going to give our vegetables a stir. They're looking great. Oh my gosh, it smells so good. All right, I am going to stir that around. And then I'll transfer it carefully into our bowl. Now remember, the vegetables are really hot at this point, so have your grown-up helper do this for you, or just really take your time and be careful. I'm going to give it a really good stir, make sure it's all well cooked and mixed up with our soy sauce and fish sauce. All right, so we're going to carefully move it in. You see the steam, it's really nice and hot, so be careful. And have your grown-up pick up and push it's a good division of labor. The grown-up can hold the pan up and your little helper can help pull all the vegetables into the bowl. So now I'm going to put the pan back on the stove and we're going to get our eggs. Here we have our eggs nicely scrambled, and now I'm going to pour it into the pan. Do you hear the sizzle? Okay, we're going to just let it cook for a minute, and then we're going to try and flip it with our spatula. So you can see how it's changing. I'm going to give it another couple seconds before I try to flip it. I'm not sure how good I am going to be about flipping this anyway. It's okay if it breaks it when it's flipping, because I'm probably not going to be able to flip this in one piece. Some people might, but it's okay because we're going to cut it up anyway. So I'm going to try and give it a go here. Yeah, it's all sticky, but that's okay. All right, now we're going to cook it on this side just to make sure there's no runny bits left and it's cooked all the way through. We can just put this on this cutting board. So this omelet is great for little friends to cut up. Make sure you have your grown-up turn off the stove and take the pan off the heat. Okay, now you can either cut this up with a fork and a knife, or just a spatula works just as well, into little pieces. All right, we're going to get our fried rice all together. I'm going to put this egg in here on top. We're going to bring our rice over. Ooh, that looks great. So now our rice is all nice and cooked. I'm going to add it to our bowl. We just mix everything all together. All right, I'm going to chop up the rest of our egg. And put that right on top. And that's it. You've got yourself some delicious vegetable fried rice, and you did a great job. And as always, thank you for sharing your kitchen time with me. Make sure you check out all the other FoodPrints recipes and videos, and I'll see you next time.